be blunt, Cinderella is a murderer. What? Cinderella is a killer? It's hard to believe, but it's true. Hello, I'm Rebecca from All in Korea who tells you everything about Korea. Today's content is about Korean legend. The title of the content is the first series of Korean and Western ghost story by Rebecca. Cinderella vs. Gongjae Pachi. Which one is scarier? It's a shocking comparison between the two stories. It can be a scary story, so if you're weak and feeble, don't watch this video. I'm just kidding. Shall we start talking? There are about 1,000 Cinderella stories all over the world. In addition to Charles Perrault's Cinderella story, there are similar stories in the Grimm Brothers' Asymptote and Jean-Baptiste Bossel's Cat Cinderella. We can find similar versions of Cinderella stories in Russia, Iraq, Vietnam, China, and Korea. Today's story is not about Cinderella in a fairy tale that we know well, but about a scary Cinderella. Cinderella in a fairy tale that we know well is Cinderella of Charles Perrault. Today's story will not be about Cinderella in a fairy tale, but about Cinderella in the Grimm Brothers' Asymptote and Jean-Baptiste Bossel's Cat Cinderella, which are the most famous in Europe. And I'll also talk about Gongjae Pachi, the black version of Cinderella in Korea. To be blunt, Cinderella is a murderer. What? Cinderella is a killer? It's hard to believe, but it's true. From now on, Cinderella's secret will be revealed. A long time ago, in Naples, Italy, there lived a father and a daughter who lost a mother. This daughter is Cinderella. Cinderella's father remarried soon after his wife died. As a result, the woman whom Cinderella's father remarried becomes Cinderella's second mother. By the way, did you know that Cinderella has a total of 3 mothers? You might be surprised by saying, what? There is another stepmother? In fact, Cinderella has a mother who died early and 2 stepmothers who her father remarried. Cinderella kills the second mother with her own hands. The story led to the second mother continues. Please focus. The problem is that this second mother hates Cinderella. Cinderella also hates her stepmother, who dislikes her and has complained about her. One day, Cinderella is grumbling to a tutor about the stepmother. Then, Cinderella says she wants the tutor to marry her father. After hearing this, the tutor teaches Cinderella a way. It is how to kill the stepmother. Cinderella and the tutor start to plan a plot for killing the stepmother. The tutor entices Cinderella into committing murder by telling her the specific plan.
Ask your stepmother to take your clothes out of a box containing big clothes. And when the stepmother bows her head to look for clothes, close the lid of the box hard and break her neck.
One day, the time that the tutor orders comes. Cinderella asks her stepmother to take out the clothes from the big box. When the stepmother leans into the box, Cinderella closes the lid on the stepmother's head. And her neck is broken on the spot and she dies. Which one is worse between Cinderella, who kills her stepmother, or the tutor who incites the murder? The story of a bad but poor person who dreams of a perfect crime and a worse person than the bad but poor one continues. Cinderella, who carried out the tutor's murder instructions well, persuades her father to marry the tutor. Eventually, the tutor marries the Cinderella's father as planned. But the tutor brings home her 2 daughters she had hidden before the wedding. And the story of Cinderella, which we know well, begins. From this point on, Cinderella, who was deceived by the tutor, becomes an abject, ash-ridden girl. There is a Korean proverb describing this situation. I met a tiger while trying to avoid a fox, which means jump out of the frying pan into the fire. Cinderella killed her second mother, who she didn't like, and made the tutor become a third mother, because Cinderella thought she liked her. However, the result is that the third one is much scarier, crueler, and worse than the second mother. And the story of the Prince Ballroom, which you all know well, continues to unfold. The prince falls in love with Cinderella at the ballroom. She drops her shoes on the step of the palace while rushing out of the ballroom, according to the fairy rule. The prince finds Cinderella's shoes and looks for her. The prince lets the ladies of all the countries wear the shoes, saying that the owner of the shoes will be his bride. Cinderella's two older sisters try on shoes, but they don't fit their feet. By the way, yes, there is a scary story about Cinderella's stepmother and two sisters in Aschenputtel, the Grimm brothers. When the first daughter's foot doesn't fit, the stepmother tells her daughter,
Cut off your big toe. You don't have to walk around when you become a queen anyway.
and shoes don't fit on the second daughter's feet either. At this time, the stepmother talks her second daughter.
Cut off the heel. You don't have to walk around when you become a queen anyway.
As expected, the stepmother is a person full of desire. She is a person who will do anything to make her own daughters become queens. So, what happened to the two daughters with their big toes and heels cut off? Because of blood coming out of the shoes, they were disqualified from being the prince's bride. Finally, Cinderella tried on shoes, and the shoes fit Cinderella's feet perfectly. So, she married the prince, and they lived happily ever after. This is the story of Cinderella. In the end, the story can be summarized like this. Cinderella conspired with a tutor to kill her second mother and committed a perfect crime. And she helped the tutor, who was an accomplice in the murder, to be her new mother. But soon after, she was abandoned and betrayed by the accomplice. Abandoned Cinderella did not give in to hardship. Yes, anyway, she didn't give in to hardship. And she married the prince and lived happily ever after. In conclusion, the successful murderer is Cinderella, and the failed murderer is the stepmother. Huh? What does this mean? Then, let's find out about Kongjen Patri, which is a Korean version of Cinderella. The story of Kongjen Patri had the same structure as the story of Cinderella. Kongji lost her mother early and lives with his father. One day, her father gets a new wife, and she brings a daughter named Patri. This is a different point from Cinderella. In Cinderella, stepmother had two daughters, but only one daughter exists in the story of Kongjen Patri. This Patri competes with Kongji. It means that Patri is of greater importance compared with the two older sisters of Cinderella. Patri is a year younger than Kongji, and she is ugly and even nasty. Kongji's stepmother only loves Patri and makes Kongji do all the hard housework. One day, the stepmother and Patri go to the village feast and force Kongji to do various chores. Especially, they compel her to pour water in a big pot without a bottom, which is impossible and makes no sense. When the pitiful Kongji is crying in front of the leaking pot, a toad comes out and blocks the broken jar with his back to help fill it with water. Also, a fairy in another version of a story, Cow, appears and brings pretty clothes and flower shoes. Kongji dresses up nicely and goes to the village feast. District magistrate who sees Kongji at the village feast has a crush on her. District magistrate, so-called Satto, means a local government official who controls the town. Time has passed and Kongji must go back. She is in a hurry and loses one of her flower shoes, and Sato, who follows her, picks it up. Sato makes an effort to find the owner of the flower shoes by saying, "The owner of these shoes is the one who will be my wife." He makes everyone who came to the feast wear the flower shoes. Of course, it doesn't fit the feet of Pachi. Unlike the Cinderella story, the stepmother in the story of Kongji and Pachi doesn't ask Pachi to cut her big toe or cut her heels. In a smooth manner, Kongji wears the flower shoes and they fit perfectly on her feet. Finally, Sato and Kongji get married. It's just so beautiful up to here. It's like a Cinderella fairy tale, right? But now, the scary story begins. Cinderella lives happily with the prince. But what will happen to Kongji? From now on, there is another scary secret which is different from Cinderella. Cinderella kills the second mother herself, but Kongji is killed. Oh my god! The main character is dead. But it is not the end. There is a scarier story left. Pachi, the daughter of a stepmother who bullied Kongji, becomes salted. She is punished by becoming salted food called 젓갈. 젓갈 is a salted side dish that is left out to be fermented after pouring fresh fish, egg, intestines, gills, clams, shrimps, beef, pork, etc. in a jar and pouring salt in until the ingredients are completely covered. In a nutshell, it is a salted and fermented side dish. Can you believe? People become salted side dish? Pachi is an important rival of Kongji. Pachi is jealous that Kongji will marry the district magistrate. Pachi conspires with her mother to push Kongji into the pond and kill her. One day, the ghost of Kongji appears in front of Sato and explains the situation. After all, Sato becomes extremely angry when he hears this story. Kongji's dead body is found after draining all the waters from the pond. And the furious Sato executes Pachi in a cruel way. Then the body of Pachi is salted and becomes salted side dish. Today, I talk about Cinderella that we didn't know. Also, I talk about Korean Kongji and Pachi, which is similar to Cinderella story. How was it? Are you curious about the scary story of Korea? Please leave a comment. I will do my best to make All in Korea full of interesting Korean stories. So, today's conclusion is Cinderella is a murderer. And there is a Cinderella story in Korea, but it is a bit scary. Subscription and alarm settings are love. This is Rebecca, a real Korean woman. It's really over.